All right, we're going to get started with the presentation. Again, welcome. Glad to have you. And my name is Bob Robinson. As I mentioned before, I've been with the company for 17 years or so in different capacities, everything from sales to production, back to sales with one division to another division. They bounce me around pretty well, but always a good place to be. I do want to find out who you are, so I have a few poll questions we're going to start with. And we're going to go through them individually so I get a feel for who you are and what you're looking for from the seminar. First question, do you own a printer cutter? That's pretty simple, yes or no. Give that some time for everybody to populate their answers and we'll get you the results. All right, 60% yes. That's interesting. So you hopefully know what you're doing. The other 40% no, of course. Second, well, this only applies to the other 40%, but do you plan on adding a printer cutter to your business? And there you'll have some multiple choices. Okay, 22% say yes within 2 to 6 months. 33% says yes, but long term. 40% is no. A lot of you guys probably already have printers, be my guess. Anyway, we're going to move on to the final question is what type of decoration do you do currently? And here you can select as many as you like because I can't imagine too many being just single faceted. (45% screen print, 55% embroidery, 100% heat printing, yay, 55% sublimation, and no DTGs. Very good. Okay. Well, I appreciate your input there. We know a little bit about you now, and I do want to start this by saying I encourage your questions. There are no silly questions. If I can answer them, I certainly will. If not, we'll find out and let you know. For the most part, we should be able to field all of your questions as we go, so feel free to type those questions in as the presentation moves on. Maybe something I say will spur on a question, make you think about, oh yes, I always want to know that, or whatever the case is. Don't be shy about the questions. I'd much rather you be right here, but we're going to go through the camera right now, so feel free to interact as much as possible. Starting with print cut press, we're looking at specifically using today the Roland VersaCAMM, which is probably the most common print cut device in the industry. But a little about the process for those of you not going to know, this is a lot of review for some, but for those who are brand new to this, the principle is just this. It is solvent inkjet printing and cutting. And what that means is it's the same ink that they use for signs and banners and decals, and usually in a much larger format. We've borrowed that technology using heat transfer film. That is a 2-ply material. There is a plastic or polyester carrier on the bottom. Sandwiched on top of that, or at least laminated on top of that, is a white thin heat transfer film. We print the design onto the white film, and then the printer cutter rolls back in and contour cuts around that design, meaning it gets rid of the excess white. So what you end up with, once we weed away the excess, lift it off with a transfer mask, you can apply this to fabric, or pretty much any fabric, depending on the material that you're using. That's kind of the overview, and that's not the end of it. We're going to give some definite demonstrations, show you how the process works throughout. And I'm probably going to start with that. We'll look at the process, and then we'll actually do the weeding, the masking, then the application. And then at one point we'll discuss about who needs this and why. and what kind of profit could be made on this as well. So as we go through this, we start with the art preparation. Now, I'm not going to bother with getting too much into it as far as what's on the computer, but you will begin with your favorite art design program. CorelDRAW, Adobe Illustrator, Flexi. There are a number of ones out there, but what's key is that it's a vector art. You're looking for vector format. And the reason we like vector, even though the printer will actually print a JPEG or PDF or any bitmap raster type of image, it needs line art, it needs vector art for us to be able to put the cut line around there. So the cutting portion of it only reads those vector lines on the design. So if you're starting in Photoshop and you want a picture of me, and who would not, and you want to get rid of the background, you're either going to have to, and believe me, I'm not heavy into Photoshop whatsoever. You have to drop that background somehow. Sometimes there's a lot of with Illustrator using a magic wand. There's transparency mask you can drop off the background. But the key is that we want to put a cut line just around me, and that can be a little tedious if you're doing it by hand. So sometimes we'll copy and paste. But ideally, starting with vector art at the beginning is very simple. I can put a cut line on a basic design in seconds just by a simple right click, choosing a particular spot color that the Roland VersaWorks reads as cut contour. That's 2 capital C's and no spaces. That's just a spot color, usually a magenta color, something bright, that we will apply that cut line to. The printer or the RIP software recognizes all of the other colors it's going to print, but when it sees that color, it sees it's going to cut that one. So once we create the design in Illustrator, CorelDRAW, put the cut line on it, now we're going to export that file as an EPS, and then we bring it into the RIP software, which is the Roland VersaWorks. That is where we're going to manage that design. Starting at the top, it starts with layout. We say get from machine. That means get how wide is that material. Now, when we start the process, as you'll see in a little bit, it measures between the pinch rollers. So it knows how big, not necessarily how big the material is that's in there, but at least where your pinch rollers are laying. And those are the rollers that hold the material down and advance the material back and forth. So it'll tell us how big of a media that we have. And then at that point, we'll be able to size the design, tell it how many we need, rotate it. I can put multiple images in there, as you're going to see in a little bit. Then we drop down to the quality tab. And here in the quality, this is where it becomes really easy, because there is a profile made for every material or every type of material out there, whether it be decal or banner or satin canvas, and heat transfer, of course, which we're going to show today. So choosing the proper profile for the right media is going to ensure that you would get the optimum quality print, because somebody much smarter than myself has a photospectrometer and used this particular printer with this particular media and says these are the optimum settings to get the best quality print. Quick pick it and go. I'm done. I love it. So once you go through the quality tab, there's not too much else. We just pretty much say okay, and then we go to the print cut portion where it actually does the job. So what I'm going to do is we're going to focus a little bit more. I'm going to get Taylor involved. She's going to follow me around with the camera, and hopefully I don't get in her way too much. So I'm going to flip to her now. And the nice thing, one of the things I like about the VersaCAMM is it's actually on wheels. So it doesn't take up a lot of space. I need to get to the back. We're going to show you the roll portion in the back here. And I'm going to load the material. On the back, as you can see, there's a great media handling system here that you can lock down to get to keep the tracking nice and straight, especially on long designs. If I were doing a much longer run, I would want to make sure that it doesn't run off after it prints and it comes back to cut. But we're simply going to push the material through. And it should be fairly set up on the front end because I did this once earlier. I'm going to slide around to the front. I'll be able to push this back. And you'll see the pinch rollers that I was talking about on either side. Here and here. These are the devices that actually move the material forward and backwards. And you'll notice that the blue squares that are above each of them, those represent the grit rollers below. There are some knurled or textured type of rollers underneath that give us the traction that we need to make this thing go straight. So once I know that my material is nice and straight, I'm going to lock those rollers down, and it's going to tell me to close the door, and we will. Now, as it is setting itself up, the print head's going to come across. Well, actually, it's going to pump up some ink right now. The pinch rollers are going to, or the print head's going to come across. And it's going to read the location of both of those pinch rollers. So when I go to the RIP software and I say get from machine, it's going to tell me exactly how much space there are between the pinch rollers. Now I've got all this material here that I do not want to waste. So I'm going to use the up arrow to push it back at a comfortable distance. There's a vacuum, the little holes that you see on the little ways back into the machine. It's actually a vacuum. It's actually helping to hold the material down so it doesn't raise up. Because the worst thing that can happen that we don't want to happen is for the print head to strike the media. The print head's the most expensive part of the machine, so we take extra care. I'm going to set the base point now. I hit Function and Enter. I reset that base point so it's going to start printing from where it is right now. Had I not pressed that, it would have pushed the material back out to where we originally set it up. Now that is all prepped, we'll go ahead and send a design to it. I just simply walk to my computer and hit print on the job. It's going to process for just a little bit, and what's going to take a little bit of time is that it's heating up the heaters in this device. This machine has two different heaters in it. I'm going to go ahead and switch back so you actually see my lovely face. This device has two different heaters. The one in the back is to prep the material. That kind of preheats the material, kind of opens up the pores so the print receptor on that material is ready to receive the ink. And again, these are set settings that are in that profile. And then there's a heater in the front. And actually, this is actually warm right here. This was the very front of the machine. That's going to dry the ink enough so it doesn't smear when it comes back in contour cuts. So that's what it's doing right now. It's actually setting it's coming up to the proper temperatures that are in the profile. Shouldn't take but a few more seconds as we're getting closer to the optimum temperature. Do we have any questions at all? Not yet. Don't be shy. Some of you, this is probably review, because obviously 60% of you have printers already. That means probably about 6 or better of you have printers. The rest of you are considering it at one point or another. But yeah, those of you who have done this before and you have some little more advanced questions, that don't try to stump me, but at least I'll do my best to answer your questions for you. All right, I think we're close enough. And there we go. All right, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and bring Taylor back into the mix so we can watch the printing process happen. Now you'll see on this particular file, I have ganged together two different designs. And this, I did this intentionally, well, for a couple reasons. There are two types of designs. One is semi-detailed, and the other one is pretty basic. So I wanted to see when we get to the weeding and masking portion of this, what this particular material will do, and why you would choose a type of design over another. And secondly, just to show you that you can put multiple images in this printer. I can connect, I can do 2 of this, 5 of this one, 5 of this one, 2 or 3 of this one. Pretty much maybe my morning's production all at one time. It's going to print them all and cut them. That's all unattended. So even though it's fun to watch, it's not making me any money by watching these designs be printed. So essentially, I can pretty much hit go and walk away, come back, half hour later or whatever the case is, depending on the size of the design or how many copies I have, and now I begin the post-production portion of this. So it's really nice for the shops that are pretty much a one-man band or the one person running the whole show or only a couple employees, they have to do a lot of multitasking. So I don't want to have to rely on going back and forth from printer to cutter. Now, there is an age-old debate between a lot of, especially sign shops, whether or not it's better to have a separate printer and a separate cutter using registration marks. But in my opinion, the way most of our customer base is structured, you just don't have the staff to keep that moving. Something's going to sit idle anyway. You're not going to be able to keep coming back and forth to check the printer, see if it's time to go to the cutter. I like the fact that I can push go, come back, and then in a little while my designs are done and ready to post for post-production. We have a question. Actual measurement of the machine. On this particular machine, this is the VS300i. That one is my favorite, unless you're doing banners in larger format. But this particular machine is about 5.5 feet long and about 30 inches deep. So, and yeah, though we don't have it tight against the wall right now, it can be put up against the wall. So you would need, my opinion, you leave yourself a 4x8 area to work on this properly, so you can actually pull it out to get behind it to get to the media in the back. Now the good news is, if you're using the same type of jobs over and over, most cases that material is going to stay in there. You don't really have to be doing this every time. That the roll can just stay in there pretty much for days, until you're ready to change it out for something else. The other thing too is that I get this question a lot. Yeah, if you're not going to ask me, I'm going to make up questions. Is that the ink never comes out of the machine, only when you're going to replace them. So you don't have to change the ink when I'm doing decals or banner versus heat transfer. It's the same ink for every process. One more question. How much material should leave sticking out past the door? If you'll notice, I did leave a little additional on this case. Some of the materials tend to want to curl up a little bit, and the reason I did that on this case, I don't have the media clamps on. There are media clamps, they're little metal guides that will hold the material down so that it doesn't stick up in the air. So I opted not to have those on so that I could do a sheet cut for you without taking them off. It was just a matter of simplicity for my sake. But it depends on the material is the short answer. I definitely want it to be on to just past the vacuum, maybe an inch or so past that at a minimum. If you have the pinch roller, the media clamps on, then that's enough. But in this case, I did let it stick out right about to the door, so it didn't curl up and actually hit the door and create a head strike. Right now, as you'll see, it's back in contour cutting. Now we've got some pretty fine detail there on that Extreme Power logo. The Dragons was easy. That was a simple one time around. Maybe a little cavity in the middle that I always forget to weed on that design. This is picking up the detail of every individual letter. And it's accurate. As long as you will need to occasionally, I say occasionally, calibrate your cutter so that it's printing and cutting accurately, so it's actually cutting right to the ink line. This one's pretty close. When I really zoom in on it, I think I can find just a little hint away because I didn't really bother calibrating it, but I think you'll see it's totally acceptable. And that's done. It advances itself, and it's now ready to be taken off the machine. That's done with a simple sheet cut. Now, one little trick here is it will always advance itself forward about an inch or so. So if you're really conserving material, I'll just use the up arrow a little bit, push it back just a little bit, and then hit the sheet cut. As you'll see, it'll advance a little bit. It wants to make sure it's not going to cut through your ink. Well, we just defeated that by running it backwards about the same amount. So we don't waste. I know it's an inch of material, but you do that about 30 times, it can start adding up. So there's your image. There are your images. You've got your Extreme Power. You've got the Dragons. And I'm going to switch over to one more camera, so hopefully you can see the weeding and masking process. Get some of this stuff out of the way a little bit. Go ahead and sit down, because I'm old. And I want to cut away this excess that we did waste, and shame on me for wasting that much material, but they'll take it out of my pay eventually. All right, and the reason I take that away is it's just less resistance. I just don't want anything else to, as I'm pulling this apart. Now here's where the fun begins. Real fun, weeding. It's a therapeutic type of thing, and that's just pulling away the excess. Those of you who have vinyl cutters know that you have to, pick away everything that isn't part of the design. The good news is, especially with this Dragons logo, is that all the detail is printed, so we're only basically taking around the outside. Of course, on the extreme power, it's going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to start in the corner. Now I always start weeding from as you're looking at any text, from the end of the word. For the reasons that you see the E and every other type of letter seems to be open on that side, so it gives me less resistance. It pulls the material out a little bit easier. So we'll start in the corner, pick up the media. So now keep in mind that we're just taking the material on top and leaving the carrier, and hopefully this was cut cleanly just through the material and not too much into the carrier. And hopefully it's cut enough so that we get a clean weed. Now you'll notice that on the Dragons, there's a white key line around the outside. It was not necessary. So don't think that, okay, this process has to have that white key line around there every time. And with some particular materials, it does make it more production friendly. We'll talk about that a little bit later as we talk about the different types of media available. But honestly, this was going on a black shirt. So that dark green on the black was not going to show up well. So we put a little white around the outside just to make it show off. Yeah, this is easy. Now this particular material that I'm using right now is called Express Print. It is our best-selling material by far for a lot of reasons. One, it's very affordable. Two, it is very production friendly. I don't have to babysit much at all. As long as my cut depth and my force is accurate, I can pretty much just kind of, I'm being a little cautious because nobody wants to mess up on live TV. But in a production atmosphere, you'd probably just grab this and pull it, and in most cases, you'll be in good shape. So we're peeling away the excess. And of course, what's left to do is get the trapped cavities. Very production-friendly material. No curling, no concern about what's going to stay down, what's not going to stay down. Here's this area that I always forget. I'm going to get it now while I'm thinking about it. Center that cavity. And then we pick out the cavities inside of every trap cavity in the letters. The R and the O, the P, and then the bigger ones. What I find helpful at this point, which I'm not showing you here, is I always keep a piece of mask, or some of the, if you're using the fashion film, the tacky back on that, leave it to the side so I can just kind of pick up these little chads and cavities, and instead of getting them everywhere, I can just stick it onto that sticky mask over here. Kind of keeps everything contained for me. No extra charge for that hint. If I forget one, and before I press it, I can always go back after it's masked and get it from the back side. It's just not as easy to see because you don't see the ink. Talking about the attributes of Express Print. Good for cotton, polyester. It's a polyurethane material. It's nice and thin. It's a true matte finish, so it looks more replicates ink. I did mention that there was a reason why I picked two different designs here. Same material on both of these images. When I apply this one, because of the bulk of the field of material, regardless of how good the material is, you're still going to sometimes feel there's something there. And it can be not, I mean, it's still acceptable, but it's not the best hand imaginable. But the same size design with a lot of cavities or a lot of the fabric showing through, it almost feels like it's not there, even though it's the same material, because I get that fabric showing through, so it just feels a lot softer. Even though the same size image, the same amount of material used, it's going to feel a lot better. So now that we're done weeding, it's time for the mask portion. This is the Magic Mask Medium Tack, 20 inches, just like the roll of material, so I can be as frugal as possible and but not so frugal that you miss it. That's a bad thing, since ruining a design. So leave a little bit extra. This particular mask is, again, another polyester type of tacky mask. Has a like a wax paper carrier. We're going to pull that off. Careful not to let it stick to anything, but I'm going to save that because we're going to reuse it here in just a minute. When you're masking, we want the middle to hit first. Trying to avoid any bubbles at all. So we're going to hit the middle, hit first, and let the rest fall off to the outside. And then we're going to use a squeegee. This is a pretty aggressive mask. With this particular material, I really don't have to spend a lot of time on this one. Some of the other ones can be because they have this, stretchy. You might spend a little bit more time making sure that you get a good firm pressure. Now this is going to make a little noise, so hold yours. There, it's like taking off a Band-Aid. Do it quick. I'm going to lay it back on top of that wax paper the same direction so you can cut them up. Now, I do that because we don't want that sticking to everything else. Now I can just cut these apart. And obviously in production we'd be doing a little bigger than this, more designs at one time. But once they're all done, you're going to cut them all up individually so that you have all these transfers ready to be applied. I hear we have a question, so shoot. Can Express Print be applied to these soft-sided coolers that have that foam insulation inside? They can, but usually those type of coolers have a pocket in the front, and that's about where what you can do. You're right. If you lay them together, you're going to melt those things. You won't get the thing back open. They're going to melt to itself. So it does apply at 320 degrees. Here's what you're talking about here. Same situation. Yeah, if I try to apply to this inside is the place that melts. Outside, not so bad. This is either polyester or nylon, so it's very sturdy. It's designed for that. But this plastic, this PVC inside, yeah, it's going to melt. So, but almost all of them, if you buy them, especially from Sanmar, they're designed to be decorated. So they always give you this pocket, leave you this type of option. In this case, we slid it over top of a smaller platen, just like you would here, and then apply it this way, so we're not touching any of the volatile area that could melt. So yes, but with restrictions. Other questions? All right. All right, I guess nothing left but to apply. So we're going to try both of these designs. We'll do the Dragons and the Extreme Power. I'm going to get Taylor activated and bring us over to the heat press. We are using the Hotronix Fusion. I like the Fusion for many reasons. It's the most versatile heat press that we've got. We've got a lot of different items at times to press. You want to have the flexibility of being able to change out the platens very quickly. I want to be able to get the heat away from me, both either the swing or the draw. I like the full threadability feature that it offers. I always like to work in just one layer of fabric. I'm going upside down, so I got to remember to put my design upside down. So we're threading the shirt on, centering it as best as possible. I take it all the way to the shoulders. That kind of helps me get a sense of straight and centered, and then we pull it back, just so that that collar is not on the heat press. Two reasons for that. This can create a problem as far as pressure goes. It can create a little bit of a bridge type situation where it hits here and not down here, and not the area right next to it. And secondly, it's a good way to measure my design. Everything almost is always registered off of the collar. So if I'm doing a hand or 3 inches or using the laser alignment system, I base it off of this, knowing that my shirt is always going to be there, so I can repeatedly apply my design. Now we always, at least we always suggest that you pre-press. And I don't even lock this all the way down. I'm just going to hold it against there. The reason we pre-press, well, a couple reasons. Maybe I will lock it all the way down. When I lock it down, it's actually giving me the fact that what my pressure is. I'm getting a 4 or a 5, which is a nice medium pressure. I don't have to give it the full dwell time. Usually a few seconds is enough. But the reason we pre-press is, one, to obviously get the pressure proper before the design is on there. Two is we're getting rid of moisture and wrinkles. The moisture probably most important, because that can be a real deterrent when you're applying any type of adhesive. Go ahead and take this dragon logo. Maybe. There you go. The tacky mask is nice because it can allow things to stay exactly where you want it. I'm going to center on that shirt, come down about a normal amount from the top, and we're going to swing it closed. 320 degrees, 10 to 15 seconds. Feel it hot. Feeling it hot is because of the mask. That particular type of mask, it melts very quickly, so it's very liquefied. So when it's time for this to lift up, that mask actually flies right off. That simple. Full color. Very durable. And there's a ton of colors in there. We're going to talk about the benefits of this process, why this is a good idea for you. Since we're here, let's go ahead and do that extreme power. Same principle applies. This time we got a lovely light blue shirt. Maybe not the best choice for that logo. We'll see. We have a question. Well, we're going. He needs help. Oh boy. Mm-hmm. 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 Using the same material, using HTM2 profile with Roland, using the same mask on an LAT t-shirt. I'm assuming it's 100% cotton, maybe 50-50. That would be key information. But the problem was it did not stick. Oh, it stuck and you couldn't release it. That probably going to have to take a lot more information for that and get some details. That's strange, because obviously the most common thing you would think of going to be failure, but it would not stick because there's some sort of coating on that fabric that wasn't burned off. That's another reason that we preheat, is if you've got any type of extra sizing or waterproofing or siliconization on there, or Teflon coated. Oh my gosh, Teflon, nothing's supposed to stick to that, so you don't want to try to apply it to that. That's usually the issue, but the fact that it's not releasing is a little concerning. So I actually would recommend you just give us an email. Send it to me. I'll deal with it as best I can, or send it on to our quality team. You can start it with bob.robinson@stahls.com, and I'll be glad to help you out, or at least get it onto our quality team. So we're going to take this logo, the Extreme Power, lay it onto the blue shirt. I guess it doesn't look terrible. And you're going to swing it closed. Same principle. And I wish you could feel the hand difference between these two, but you just can't. You can try it on your own. Buy a printer and cut your own. But I will tell you that this is going to feel a lot more like screen print, like it's just almost not there, because of the fabric showing through. And that's the kind of design that I like. Now, it is key that as you're creating these, no one wants to sit and weed all day. So there's a balance between what is production friendly versus what's going to be the optimum for your customer, to meet their expectations. Okay, I'm going to slide you back to show some examples and actually talk a little bit more about this process. I asked this question in a lot of the live, actual face-to-face seminars that I do, educational type of things. What is your greatest challenge in apparel decoration. And inevitably it comes out, whether it's not the first answer, it may be the second, but it always comes out. Is turning away business because I am not able to do what they want to do cost effectively. Meaning, you know, the benefit of this process is as many colors as you want, as few or many as you need on any fabric. So it's kind of a solution-making machine. It really creates the ability. If I'm a screen printer, which a good percentage of you were, you know yourself that trying to create a design or produce a design that has 6, 8 colors in it, and they only want 10 of them, you know, the screen charges alone for that design can be up to $150 to $200 that you have to amortize over 10 shirts. That's a lot of money to pay for a shirt. So your customer's not going to pay for that. So you're either going to take it on the chin and give up, you know, basically lose money on the deal just to keep the customer, or you're going to have to turn them away and say, just can't do it. So that's why I like this particular process, is the flexibility and the versatility and the durability. The ability to create full color designs on any fabric, as few or many as possible, as you need. Yeah, on the flip side of that, there is no real benefit or savings by doing volume, other than some little bit of efficiency that you pick up through the post-production process. So the weeding and masking, I get better at it as I go. The same design over and over. I can do a little more each time. But essentially, there's no real savings. So screen printing never going to go away. It's there for the large volume. It's there for the shorter number of colors. So it's going to be the go-to, and it's kind of the standard by which we're all measured, because it's what everyone. It's almost a generic term. I want my designs. Can you screen print this on my shirt? They don't know how you're putting it on your shirt, whether you're pulling ink, or whether you're, you know, printing onto a film, or going direct to fabric with a DTG. They just want their design on their shirt. So yeah, screen printing is kind of a generic term that most people equate with apparel decoration. So that's where it really fits in. For short runs, it really shines for short runs in multiple colors, and the fact that there's just some things that are just next to impossible to screen print, and some of the effects. Speaking of those things, we're going to go through a few of these different items that I have here. There are a lot of different media. You know, we showed the express print. The express print is the kind of the go-to for your day-to-day cotton, polyester, for your t-shirts, for your sweatshirts, and when it's doesn't have to perform. Since express print has been out, we've come up with a line called the Tack line. It is the solutions, not solutions, but the Super Tack opaque, the Super Tack subless stop, the foil Tack, and then the varieties of shift and different types of effects. So here is a stretchy polyester shirt, and I'm going to switch to number 2 so you can see this. Maybe a little bit tough. I think you can see the sheen of this. This is a silver metallic foil that gives you the ability to print onto it, and it gives you the great stretch and rebound. This has the sticks to adhesive. That sticks to adhesive adheres to any fabric. It's cotton, polyester, lycra, spandex, nylon, silk, leather. There's no restrictions with this particular adhesive. This is huge in the industry, especially that with the trend turning a lot more to the performance wear that you see here. Here's a nightmare shirt if you're doing apparel decoration. This is red polyester, stretchable. It doesn't get any harder than that to decorate, but with this, now we use a product called Subless Stop on this one, and this one has a charcoal adhesive underneath, that just blocking that dye migration. As you know, as you heat different fabrics up, especially polyester, especially red, they want to migrate through the white material. Here's an example. My lovely assistant hands me. Here's one that has been printed. Looks the same as it would, whether it be the opaque or the express print. When you look at the back side, you see this dark charcoal or almost black adhesive. That's what's blocking that dye migration through this red polyester shirt. That could be a nightmare for you. And it has great stretch and rebound. It adheres to any fabric. You can see that stretchability. And the beauty of it, it adheres at a very low temperature. This goes as low as 280 degrees. That's what stops. Anytime you get under 300 degrees, you're noticeably stopping or hindering the type of migration that you can get in a lot of the polyesters. It's not just red. It's gold, it's black, it's any colors. You never know when you're going to get a fabric that the dye just won't behave itself, and I'm sure you've all dealt with that in the past. Moving on to the versatility of these types of media. Here's another metallic onto this. I think we looked at this earlier. We showed that bag, this soft-sided cooler. We have two questions before we move on. What do we got? What would be the retail of that shirt? Boy, I wish I could get everybody else to chime in on this one because you sell them. I just sell the equipment. Now, the retail of that shirt, it really depends on what your customers' expectations are, who's selling this around you. If it's a one-off, customized just for you, they're willing to pay quite a bit. My honest opinion, this type of shirt, because it is a Sport Tech stretch performance wear with a customized special finish logo, I would say you need to get at least $15 out of this shirt, if not more. This was from Sanmar. It's called Sport Tech. The material this is on, this is the Foil Tech. This is the Foil Tech Silver. Now there are metallic silver, right? Well, Foil Tech is going to be metallic regardless, but three different types here, just to clear that up. You've got Foil Tech Silver, Foil Tech Gold, and Foil Tech White. These are all metallic effects. The thing is, there is, if you go to, like, say, the gold, for example, you're going to get a little bit of a color shift that's going to look a little goldish, so you'll use it accordingly. The white is going to give you the best reproduction. One more. What type of heat transfer material was on the red polyester? That one is the, I can do this. The Super Tech Sublistop. Too many vowels. Super Tech Sublistop in this one. That's one that blocks the dye migration. That's the same as what you saw here that has that blocker in it. And to be honest with you, because it is a very stretchable material, then one of the characteristics is that it would want to tend to curl a little bit. But what I like about the Sublistop is it's a little bit more rigid with that extra pigment in that adhesive. It makes it easier to cut some of the details. You can see in the word soccer here. That's it's not impossible to do something like that. Now I get into 1/4-inch high letters. I wouldn't bother. It's difficult. Balloon them, put something around it so that you're making your production a lot simpler. Today I'm going to go work backwards through each one and say exactly what they were. I get mixed up, so bear with me. This is the Super Tech Sublistop. Sublistop because it is a very risky chance of this actually migrating through. Neoprene, usually any of the can coolers, the koozies and things like that, those tend to want to migrate. So use Sublistop here. This one was simply the Super Tech Opaque because it was just going onto a basic leather. I still don't know if this is leather or faux leather, but it treats the same way. Low temp, so you didn't have the scorch marks. Super Tech Opaque. This was actually Solutions Opaque. This one was done years and years and years ago. It's been around in my repertoire for a long time, so I know this was Solutions Opaque. It could have easily been Super Tech Opaque. Super Tech Opaque is a little more production friendly than the Solutions Opaque. Solutions Opaque is still the premium product that was created for Nike years and years ago, and still in our offering for sure. But sometimes can be a little production prohibitive, so that's why we came up with the Super Tech Opaque. This one, I believe I used Super Tech Sublistop on this one, just because there was some detail involved. Even though it was just polyester, and there's a good chance that blue would not have migrated through these colors, but because it was a little easier to work with, I'm pretty sure I used Sublistop on that one. This was just standard Super Tech Opaque. Actually, this was actually Express Print, now that I think about it. Yeah, this is Express Print. I'm sorry. You can't see me. I was thinking that I was on the, sorry guys. I was thinking I was on the wrong camera. This one is Express Print. It's a simple 600 denier polyester bag. Anything goes to it. So use the most affordable, easy to work with product there. So in case you missed, because I was down there and I was being silly, you got this one. Okay, good. I'm sorry. That's why I keep a good staff around me, keep me in shape. This is the Foil Tech Silver. adhere to this nylon or polyester bag. Still don't know what it is, but I guess you're supposed to know. But the good news is it doesn't matter to me because it sticks to anything. Subless stop, again, red polyester, most important. And this again was the Foil-Tech silver. And there are a lot more products. There's a lot of products we haven't shown in the clear and the shift, the gold shift, the silver shift, that give you like a translucent type of reproduction of designs. But just give you a good overview of what's out there. Any other questions before we call it a day? All right, very good. Well, hopefully this has been a productive time for you. We've got one. What color of ink are in the printer? Good question. We actually didn't talk about this new line of printers. This is the Roland VersaCAMM VS300i. Now the I is telling me that it is new and improved. This has been out for about a year. It has a new ink set called the EcoSol Max 2. The EcoSol Max 2 is just an improvement on the old EcoSol Max inks. It is more, they dry a little faster, they're a little more scratch resistant, a little more durable. What I like about what they've done with this new setup is there are 8 cartridges available on this machine. And that is Cmyk, which is cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. But now they've expanded the color gamut by adding light cyan, light magenta, and probably the most important is light black or gray. That allows you to get a really good, true grayscale. Those of you who have been doing this type of thing know that it's difficult to get a good gray that doesn't shift to orange or green somewhere along the process because there's just not a real true gray in that offering. There is now. It also has the ability to add either white or metallic. In our industry, we don't push those much at all. In fact, I usually steer folks away from both of those colors because the media you're printing on is almost always white, so there's no white ink here. That's just the material that we've printed or not printed on, just cut only. The metallic doesn't do such a great job for heat transfer, although you can get some results out of it. It typically likes to have a very shiny, glossy, more polished type of finish to give that metallic effect. Well, we've worked really hard to get all of our materials very matte and soft and open pored type thing, so it's a little counterproductive. My suggestion is if you want metallic effect, use a metallic material. But yeah, 8 different colors in this machine, has a full color gamut, opens up a lot more shades of purple between red and blue, so I can hit different colors a lot easier using this type of machine. There are other sizes, and a lot of you obviously have them. This is a 30-inch machine. There's a 54-inch machine, which is the VS540i, that I would recommend if you're looking at considering doing banners or wide format wall graphics, car wraps, that type of thing. So you want to step up to the higher end. It's not that much more money in the big picture. I get a lot of people saying you get the buyer's remorse, kicking themselves for not buying the larger printer on the front end, even though they had no clue that they were going to get into the banners and larger format. Just having it brings people to them. They say, can you do this for me? And they start, I can't do it. My machine's too small. So stepping up is not a bad situation here. I don't like to over-purchase anything, but the last thing you want to do is spend X amount of money and then regret that later. There is a smaller version. It's called the little BN20, and that is more of a, I don't want to say hobbyist, but it's close. It's not a production machine. It has just 4 basic colors, Cmyk, with an option for white or black or white or metallic in there too. But the difference here is it's scaled down. 20 inches, the widest format that it can go, and it literally prints. This machine is 4 times faster than that machine. So it's nice to get into the industry, do a little bit occasional do some heat transfer, occasional decal, but call it a day at that. It's not my major production machine. Quickly outgrown as well. One question.
Best way to print on the materials, do you use an inkjet or laser jet to print on those materials?
These materials, the question was, I'm not sure, well, you can hear, I don't think you can hear Jody that well, but she wanted to know whether the best type of printer to print on these materials would whether it be inkjet or laser jet. Well, those are both pigment-based type of printers. There are transfer papers out there for those printers, not nearly as durable, not as professional quality, not as good of color saturation. This has to have, the media that we're working with here today has to have solvent inkjet. So you need a printer like this, or at least the BN20. So your standard desktop printers or your office type of printers are not going to print on this type of material because this is a solvent-based, has a print receptor that receives solvent-based inks and not the pigment-based inks that you're using for your other type of transfers. Okay, she says that is it. And hopefully we've covered everything that you would like to know. Again, we're always available through email or chat, whatever you like, through Stahls.com. But I do thank you for your time, for your attendance. Don't forget that there's a survey after we sign off here. Please fill that out so we can improve and get you what you need going forward. Again, thank you for your time. My name is Bob Robinson, and you're watching Stahls TV. Thanks. To get all of our materials very matte and soft and open poured type thing, so it's a little counterproductive. My suggestion is if you want metallic effect, use a metallic material. But yeah, 8 different colors in this machine, has a full color gamut, opens up a lot more shades of purple between red and blue, so I can hit different colors a lot easier using this type of machine. There are other sizes, and a lot of you obviously have them. This is a 30-inch machine. There's a 54-inch machine, which is the VS540i, that I would recommend if you're looking at considering doing banners or wide format wall graphics, car wraps, that type of thing. So you want to step up to the higher end. It's not that much more money in the big picture. I get a lot of people saying you get the buyer's remorse, kicking themselves for not buying the larger printer on the front end, even though they had no clue that they were going to get into the banners and larger format. Just having it brings people to them. They say, can you do this for me? And they start, I can't do it. My machine's too small. So stepping up is not a bad situation here. I don't like to over-purchase anything, but the last thing you want to do is spend X amount of money and then regret that later. There is a smaller version. It's called the little BN20, and that is more of a, I don't want to say hobbyist, but it's close. It's not a production machine. It has just 4 basic colors, Cmyk, with an option for white or black or white or metallic in there too. But the difference here is it's scaled down. 20 inches the widest format that it can go, and it literally prints. This machine is 4 times faster than that machine. So it's nice to get into the industry, do a little bit of occasional do some heat transfer, occasional decal, but call it a day at that. It's not my major production machine. Quickly outgrown as well. One question.
Best way to print on the materials, do they use an inkjet or laserjet to print on those materials?
These materials, the question was, I'm not sure you all can hear, I don't think you can hear Jody that well, but she wanted to know whether the best type of printer to print on these materials would whether it be inkjet or laserjet. Well, those are both pigment-based type of printers. There are transfer papers out there for those printers, not nearly as durable, not as professional quality, not as good of color saturation. This has to have, the media that we're working with here today has to have solvent inkjet. So you need a printer like this, or at least the BN20. So your standard desktop printers or your office type of printers are not going to print on this type of material because this is a solvent-based, has a print receptor that receives solvent-based inks and not the pigment-based inks that you're using for your other type of transfers. Okay, she says that is it. And hopefully we've covered everything that you would like to know. Again, we're always available through email or chat, whatever you like, through Stahls.com. But I do thank you for your time, for your attendance. Don't forget that there's a survey after we sign off here. Please fill that out so we can improve and get you what you need going forward. Again, thank you for your time. My name is Bob Robinson, and you're watching Stahls TV. Thanks.